really interesting. Um, this person has a really deep connection with wild roses, and they're drawn to rose gardens, everything rose. They have flowers all over their room. And their spiritual teacher has the name of Rosa.
Yes.
So they were wondering about creating a rose garden, and if you could guide them where the passion for roses actually comes from.
Well, it's a connection, especially with wild roses, to longevity and ancient times and ancient knowledge, because the wild rose, in a sense, is what you would call the original rose and has been around for thousands upon thousands, perhaps even hundreds of thousands of years in its present form. Everything else that you call a rose is usually hybridized off of that. So it's like going back to the original form, connecting to the idea of the ancient knowledge, the ancient ways of connection to the universe and nature. That's its general expression. Creating a garden would be an expression of manifesting different forms of it to share with different people who are attracted to different expressions of the hybridized original rose. So it's like planting seeds of love in different ways that people can relate to. Different colors, different styles, but all goes back to the idea of the original wild rose, which forms the foundation of the expression symbolically in your culture of the expression of unconditional love.
Beautiful. This person had a bad trip on magic mushrooms, where they became aware of the billions of frames per second, and each second felt like 1,000 years.
Not sure yet why that's a bad trip, because it sounds like true insight into the nature and structure of how physical reality is created by your consciousness. So we're not sure why they are referring to it in the negative.
He said he was terrified of the experience and eventually asked for a gun so that he could wake himself up. He wasn't given a gun and eventually passed out, and then instantly was awake again, sober.
Yes. Well, it was simply too much overload for the physical mind to process at that particular moment. And he wished to go back into spirit where he knew he could process it, he could understand it. He prevented that from happening and simply rebooted himself, reset himself, so he wouldn't have to have the overload experience. But he did experience the idea of the frame rate of physical reality that you create with your consciousness. It was just too much for that person at that moment. And so he blanked out, rebooted, reset himself.
Is that similar to the idea that if we were to encounter beings of a significantly higher frequency than we operate at, that we could go into psychic shock, so to
Yes,
speak?
but again, you have the protective mechanism of simply passing out, going unconscious, so you don't have to expose yourself to that vibration. So that might actually be the first reaction, is that you would faint.
Ah, okay. Um, we had a lot of questions about following your excitement.
Yes.
Um, this one individual is saying that when they wake up in the morning, they don't feel excited or passionate about life. Instead, they kind of dread going to work. And
All
how
right.
do you, and they want to know how they can, they start having more excitement as the day progresses.
Yes.
But they'd like to know a permission slip or some way that they could feel more excited and follow their passion immediately upon waking up instead of having to go into this autopilot thing.
All right. Simple enough. First of all, remember that they've just had an adventure in spirit, and now they are focused back as their physical selves. So they're making a comparison that where they were in spirit is better than where they have come back to in the physical focus. They need to let that go. They need to remember they made a choice to be physical, to have physical experiences. And they were excited about making that choice because of what they would learn, how they would accelerate, how they would grow much faster in the physical experience than they would have in the spiritual one. So the idea is to remember that they made the choice to be here, and that was exciting. And they need to stop comparing the idea which is something they have simply learned to do by being physical, that they were trained to do, by thinking that physical reality is less spiritual, less exciting than what they just experienced, whether they remembered or not, in the spirit realm as an adventure. So they have to stop making such a difference between physical and non-physical reality, and they have to remember that they chose to be physical and that at the time they made that choice, it was very exciting. And if they stop making such a difference between physical and spiritual reality, they'll remember that excitement and be excited the moment that they wake up to continue the adventure in a different way. It's not a cessation of the adventure they were having in spirit, it's a continuation of the adventure. That's the permission slip. Nothing has been interrupted, nothing is stopped, nothing is less than, nothing is better than. It's a continuation of the adventure in different terms, in a different context, and they can be excited about that.
And this person would like to know how they can follow their excitement to the best of their ability, refining the idea of what is the best of their ability.
Again, the idea of the best of your ability is what synchronicity and society tells you is possible or probable for you in any given situation. If something seems again to prevent you from going down a certain path, then you are not able to do that at that moment for one reason or another, by not breaking either the rules of society or by paying attention to the fact that you may be experiencing red light synchronicity, saying this is not the path for you right now. Take another path that you are able to act on that's exciting for you. If they pay attention to those symbols and signs and recognize what they are able and not able to do within the parameters of society or synchronicity, then they will be less confused. They will simply look for the thing they are able to act on to the best they are able within the context of your culture and society and planet. And they will move wholeheartedly in that direction, knowing that it's connected to everything else, and that eventually they may be turned back around into the idea of the other thing they weren't able to do before, but now perhaps have the aptitude to do because of what they learned by going down a different path temporarily. So it's about opening up to the fact that all paths are going to lead you to where you need to be if you're willing to take the ones that present themselves to you and willing to pay attention to the ones that say, no, not now.
And for the person that has trouble finding their passion in businesses, they're saying that they've had businesses and they've failed, and that some people know their passion, but they're afraid to act on it. And what is it that makes it so this person can't seem to find their passion in their work
All right,
situation?
well, first of all, they have not failed. They have simply discovered a path that is not necessarily representative of the way that they truly wish to express their excitement. So they have learned things along the way, and that's all knowledge that may help them in the future, as you say. But the idea, again, is to always start simply and not necessarily have this grand idea that some overarching project or life-spanning career has to be representative of your passion. Any moment of time, any option available to you that's more exciting, even just the tiniest bit more exciting, more attractive, more curiosity invoking than any other option, even just the tiniest bit, is following your passion if you're willing to act on it. Asking this question of us at that moment was the most exciting thing they could think of to do. That wasn't difficult. So in the next moment, after we have answered this and addressed this particular issue, what will you now choose to do? It doesn't have to be a grand thing. Just look at all the options available to you and choose the one that's more attractive to you and act on it to the best you can until you can act on it no further. That's all you have to do. You need to reduce the idea that it must be some grand vision. It will eventually snowball into something bigger, perhaps, but even if it doesn't, you're still following your passion by always acting on the thing that's more attractive and more exciting than any other option, even on what you might call a typical level. You're still living the life of excitement. You expect it to be grander or feel bigger is just because you have an expectation of the way you think it should feel. Allow yourself to feel that you are acting on your excitement as long as you're constantly choosing the thing, the option, the opportunity that is more attractive, more available to you, more curiosity provoking than anything else. And as you just keep doing that, you will live a life of excitement and passion because you will attract everything you need. Simple as that. Sometimes, and I don't mean this in a negative way, sometimes it's important to reduce the scale of things so that you are within the comfort zone of what you believe you can handle. You may have gone into those businesses without an absolute certainty that you could handle them. Or again, you simply went into them to learn the things you learned by doing them, and that was the purpose of those businesses. Again, remember, it's not the goal. The journey is the destination. The process is the point. What you learn along the way, you absorb. You can use in other situations. So don't make it about achieving a goal. Make it about living in the moment and learning what that moment has to give to you. That's the important treasure that's buried in those experiences. What you get out of it. Don't dismiss them as failures. If you do that, you will not understand what the lesson was, what the learning was that's vital for you to live a rich life.
And a follow-up question here is about the path of their desire and how their brain will just start planning and envisioning and getting expectations about this and that. And the idea of why does our consciousness do that? And how do we manage that in relation to having zero expectation?
Because you don't quite yet understand, and the physical mind thinks it's in control, which it's not, and doesn't quite yet understand that having a particular insistence on a particular outcome is actually a limitation. Because if you insist on a particular thing and something better could have happened, you have just prevented it from happening. So learn the idea that insisting on a particular outcome may actually not be to your benefit because it actually prevents other, maybe even better outcomes from happening.
Right. And for some individuals, there's this fear about the idea of going through the eye of the needle and being fearful that they're not doing it right or they're not going to come out the other side into a parallel
All right,
reality they
all
might
right.
like.
Let's stop right there. The very idea of the eye of the needle is for them to face all of these negative fear-based belief systems. So if that's what's coming up, oh, I'm afraid I'm not going to do it right. I'm afraid I'm not going to be good enough. I'm afraid I'm not going to let go of. Oh, that's what I need to deal with, is the fear of these things I'm talking about. That's what the eye of the needle does. It puts you in touch with those issues of what your basic fears are all about. So once you now recognize, as you have just done by asking the question, what about this fear? What about that? What if I'm not good enough? What about that? Now you know what it is you have to deal with. Now it's clear to you what it is you need to let go of. That's what the eye of the needle has done for you. So it is allowing you the opportunity to streamline yourself and strip away all of these negative and fear-based beliefs. But first, it has to bring them to your attention. And it does so through the emotion of the fear by saying, oh, I may not be doing this right. Oh, I may fail at this. Oh, what if I don't do it in time? Oh, all of these fear manifestations. Those are the things you actually need to look at because those are the things that came up by you being willing to go through the eye of the needle.
And so, what does that mean, Eric? You created permission slips that are working for you for a while, and then all of a sudden they're not working anymore, and you start
You don't need it. You don't need it. You have become your own permission slip. Or your belief system has changed to a degree where a different permission slip, if you still need one, will work better for you because now you're a different person with different belief systems and different things, different symbols, different tools will work better for you than the things that used to work. Even in your own scriptures, it says, as a child, I thought as a child, I acted as a child, but when I grew up, I put away childish things. You don't need those toys anymore. You can use different toys, different things, and you can realize that you are the toy maker. So you may not need them anymore, you may not need them at all, or you may need a different permission slip. So use your imagination, look around, see what's attractive, see what comes to you through synchronicity as something that you say, oh, that would be fun to do. And I believe that that would help me get to the next level of my evolution. It's up to you to decide these things. It's not about saying, oh, well, that permission slip doesn't work for me anymore, so something must be wrong. No, It may be that you're done with it. You have put away that particular toy. It's time for something else.
And then the idea that making a permission slip or creating a permission slip that works. What's involved in that?
Again, it's just a matter of what you are synchronistically attracted to. Usually the permission slips that work for you will come to you. You'll find a particular book, you'll hear about a particular lecture, you'll find a particular teacher, somebody will turn you on to a particular discipline or artistic expression, something along that line. Somebody will give you a particular object. It will come to you if you're just open to it. It'll flow. It's part of the flow of the unfolding of your life automatically. You don't have to work at it. You just have to recognize what it is you're attracted to do. Oh, suddenly I'm very attracted to the idea of reading tea leaves. Oh, suddenly I'm very attracted to using tarot cards. Oh, suddenly I'm very attracted to seeing a lot of movies about this subject. It's up to you to understand and recognize the symbols in the way that they come to you in life that could actually function as permission slips for you based on what it is they allow you to believe they're doing for you. So if seeing a bunch of movies on a certain subject opens your mind up to that subject a little farther, then that has been a permission slip that has allowed you to open your mind a little farther on that subject. It's that simple. Don't overcomplicate it. It's not a big mystery. Just use what works that comes to you. Use what you're attracted to use. That's the nature of a permission slip. It's something that's aligned with your belief system that you feel will give you permission to expand, to create more of yourself. That's it. Don't overcomplicate it.
And it is really marvelous the way consciousness is designed so that it creates permission slips that are exciting for the person, and
Yes. And I'm even hearing the idea of the opposite coming from many people. In other words, if you enjoy complicating things, then that's your permission slip.
what about the person that they have a permission slip and wait, what were they saying that okay, so the idea that it creates a permission slip that's the most exciting for you. And this individual is saying that they have a very deep connection to the idea of ET contact, and that's the permission slip that gives them this really high level of excitement.
Yeah.
Does that mean that contact is relevant in terms of what's going to happen? Or does it simply mean that it's like your consciousness is tricking you into that higher state simply to get you into the higher state?
It could be either. But, tricks are not always bad. You love magic tricks, all of you, most of you. So the idea is that just calling it a trick doesn't mean that it's not getting you where you need to be. Sometimes, because of the insistence of the physical mind and its ingrained and inbuilt and trained stubbornness, sometimes a trick is necessary to get you out of that particular pattern.
I see.